Hello once again, viewers. Florentine Yu-Gi-Oh here, coming back at you finally with a long-awaited, updated Orichalcos Challenge deck profile for the summer of 2023. So a few things I want to go over before I get into the deck. This is not the deck that dueled the Novelist deck. This is the deck that, however, dueled against the Toon deck for the most part in the last couple Orichalcos Challenge videos you saw. After the Novelist duel, it was such an embarrassing defeat that I kind of just had to kind of retweak a lot of things. And as a result, the power ceiling of the deck has increased quite a bit. It's just something that needed to be done. Obviously, things can be changed, can be reverted. This is my passion project for Yu-Gi-Oh! It tumbles through a lot of different things all the time. But this is the deck I'm running as of right now for, I think, comfortable for quite a while. There is one thing in here I might change right away, but compared to other cards. But other than that, there's like two things I could probably change like right away, depending on what they do going forward. But just so you know, the power ceiling of the deck has been raised. Some things have been unerrated. Some things have been tweaked. You probably saw some of that in the Orichalcos vs. Toons video. And we are, before I get into the deck, I just want to say I got some shoutouts and thank yous to go out. First and foremost, of course, is thank you to mcool40. He actually reached out to me, seeing that I kept this challenge going after he retired his for a while, back in, I think, 2014. And so he reached out to me in 2019. He is not only responsible for the giving me the mat, the Orichalcos raw mat you see before you, but he's also given me other really cool cards, and we've been sharing ideas together. He also gave me the signed original version of the Orichalcos Berserker card, and a lot of the cards in this deck in general are kind of from his mind. So I just want to say thank you, mcool40. It's been a pleasure working with you. Hope we can do more in the future. I know you've got a lot of big projects, but hopefully this can kind of re-inspire you to kind of get things going with your Orichalcos again, so we can both just have a good time with it. Another thank you and shout out is to Crimson Heart. He's the one responsible for a lot of the Photoshop work on some of the cards I've asked him to make over recently, especially the new template and look of the Seal series. Those came out fantastic. After I got those made into secret Oricas. Another shout out and thank you goes to my buddies Mike and my cousin Kitsuna Baron for bearing with me all these years as I throw this deck at them over and over again. And with all that out of the way, another thing I just wanted to say is thank you to the viewer. I wouldn't be here without you guys. I know I hit 1,000 subs a while back, and I really haven't done anything special for it. It's been a very busy work season. We're finally slowing down in the summer. Between life things and just kind of a creative block in general, I just really haven't. And with my buddy Mike leaving the state to study elsewhere, we were gonna do something with him, but just life got in the way. But I never forgot that you all got me this far. I know we broke 1,000 quite a while back, and just my thank you to you all. So with that all out of the way, let's finally crack this deck open. So we have our field center here. This is the UDS official Judge one. Okay. Now for monsters. Double Q-Tora. We gotta run all the, so I'm kind of iffy on 2. I kind of want to run a comfortable number, but at the same time, this card is insanely powerful, just the way it works. You all know how it works by now. So we're just going to go through the old show stuff pretty quick. So Kitora sucks up all your damage, dies becomes Shunaros's attack. Shunaros summons Dexia and Aristeros, which protect your Shunaros and your other cards because they intercept attacks, and they also... Dexia can swing over anything, and then Aristeros can block anything. And then when when Shunaros goes away, we have our Divine Serpent Ge. This is the big anime one, the infinite attack. You have to discard your hand and cut your life points to 0 when it's summoned, but as long as this thing is on the field, on your side of the field, face up, you are immune to win conditions. So it's like a Platinum Angel in that sense, if you're familiar with the Magic the Gathering. And because it has such a high attack, being all of the attack, infinite, it also has to mill 10 cards to be able to attack. Funny thing is, funny story with this card actually, is that it has no, like the real one, it doesn't have any protection from in its own effect. Like, there's ways to protect it from outside sort with other cards in the deck, but with, but by itself it has like no targeting immunity or anything like that. So let me tell you about sitting on this thing at 0 life points and getting Veilered. Ha ha ha. So that's all the main show stuff that we run in the main deck for the monsters. Then we have Emkul's old dark red gadgets, dark yellow gadget, dark green gadget. So each of these gadgets searches the other, and that looks just like normal, but they all have an additional effect while they're out. This one can't be chosen as an attack target if you control another dark attribute monster. Dark yellow gadget is probably the most broken one because it gives all dark monsters on your side of the field 400 attack and defense buff. So let me tell you about the Seal of Orichalcos and one of its unwritten effects that makes all your monsters dark in addition to their current attributes. So this thing will come out as a 21, and everything else is getting a 900 boost to attack, which is pretty crazy. And then we have our dark green gadget here, which when he's out gives all of your machine monsters defense piercing. So that's also pretty good. And then when Emkul 40 came to me back in 2019, we actually worked together to create these. The dark silver gadget and the dark gold gadget, which work with both the Orichalcos monsters and the dark gadget monsters themselves. They function very similarly with their first effect. You can only use one effect of them a turn. When one is summoned, it summons a level 4 gadget or Orichalcos from hand. And then if they're destroyed, it's their effects that when they're destroyed, they're a little different. I think when Silver Gadget's destroyed, yeah, when Silver Gadget is like, it has an additional effect, along with summoning a gadget from the deck when it's destroyed. Basically, this is a fire. Basically, they're now like just Fire Hand and Ice Hand when they're destroyed. That's really the only other special thing about them. Then we have another one of Emkul's cards. This is Orichalcos Synthesis 30. So this is another really good extender and deck thinner. So it can be special summoned from my hand by discarding a card. And then once, while this card's on the field, I can draw a card, discard a card, and then equip her Equip Spell Sword from my deck or graveyard to her. And this card can only be normal summoned or special summoned by anything once a turn. But obviously, level 4 is the main stat line we're working with in this deck. Then we have our Seal series. These Brickosauruses, otherwise. So you'd probably be familiar with the Seal series. They're just big monsters that get summoned specifically by a specific spell card in the deck. The monsters themselves, they used to actually be tokens and just come out of thin air. That was way too powerful. Then they came from hand, deck. Then we moved them into the deck as bricks, and they could come from hand, deck, and graveyard, and that was still too strong. So they only come from the hand or the deck now with their spell. So they're effectively bricks that you can't really do much else with. Because like if you discard them for something, you're not getting them back. So there's that. for the most part. So Xenoheart did Crimson Heart did an awesome job with these guys. The design on the green template. Each one has its effect and also the name of the spell that summons it in its text. So how these guys work now is that they're still effect monsters, but they're like a separate monster category. You know, like Pendulum, or like it's like a separate monster category like Pendulum, but it's in the main deck, kind of like that. And they're still effect monsters, but they're also not, because each one is treated as a normal monster while it's out. And we did a lot of retooling with the Seal series to make it not as busted. Because we didn't just want to plug monster after monster, boss after boss on the field, basically. So you can only have one of these kinds of monsters. It's like kind of built, it's not really written on their effect, but it's kind of built into their card category. Is that you can only have one of these types of cards out on your field at a time. You can only control one Steel Series monster at a time. So let's go through one at a time. We have Gleam Eyes here. Gleam Eyes is probably the most busted one. 3,000 attack, immune to spells. I don't know why that's there. All the Seal monsters have the clauses that they're also always treated as normal monsters, and that if there's no field spell out, they self-destruct, and that they can only be summoned by their own specific spell card. They can't be brought back either. They're only summonable by their spell from hand or deck, and that you can only control one of them at a time. So yeah, basically Malefics. And then, so Gleam Eyes' unique effects is that he's immune to spell cards, so he's going to stay 3,000 under the Seal of Orichalcos. He's not going to get boosted by the buff. And then his other effects are once per duel, pay 1,000 life points to Heavy Storm, that is destroy all spells and traps on the field. Really strong effect. And then if this guy leaves the field because of a opponent's card effect, he floats into another spell that can summon one of these. So that's Gleam Eyes. And then we have probably the second most broken one. This is Orichalcos Warhammer Titan. I kind of unerrated this guy. I think I made him too good with his floating effect. But we'll see where that goes. So this guy's summoned by Advent of the Warhammer. He has all the global effects I mentioned before. This guy's unique effect is that he is a Ghost Ogre. Literally a Ghost Ogre. Copy-pasted. His other effect is that he does double defense piercing. So he's 3,000 under Orichalcos. So yeah, don't set stuff when he's around. And then his last effect is that he floats into a seal spell like Gleam Eyes over here. But I think I made the floating effect too broken, because if he is sent, if he's sent to the graveyard, you add a different sealed spell to your hand. I was kind of thinking that if I use him in any way, I get to recruit for the other one, because if I send him from hand as like a Ghost Ogre, I can still get another seal spell. But the fact that that I worded this triggers that it goes to the graveyard for any reason, I think I'm going to soft errata this to, if he's sent to the graveyard, if he's sent from the field to the graveyard or from the hand to the graveyard by his own effect, I think is a good compromise there. So we're gonna do that with him from now on for that effect. The last one here we got is Skull Reaper. We're making 4K bodies on here. Who cares? He can't attack directly, right? That's totally fair. And he's also a Scrap Dragon on summon. You target a card you control and a card your opponent controls, and blow them both up. So let me tell you about targeting the UDE seal with this, and targeting a card you control, and you just plus off of it because the seal can't leave the field. So that's the Skull Reaper. Skull Reaper also doesn't float into another spell. He's one of the few that doesn't. Then we have Oribo. Oribo is... I love this little guy. So he's always treated as an Orichalcos card in effect text. So one of the main things you do with this guy is you search him out, and then his effect is that you can discard him to add any of the spells, any one of the spells that summon these guys, to your hand. So what you normally do is you go Chosen Destiny, Orichalcos Eye, add a Rebo to your hand, ditch a Rebo, grab the spell to summon a seal monster. And then the other thing he does is he's actually a Kuriboh, where once per duel, during my opponent's turn and damage, I can banish this card from my hand or graveyard to take no battle damage from that battle. So he's just a recruiter for the seal cards. Then we have one Orichalcos Saber Altar. We're never distributing 3 monsters to summon this on the field. It's literally fodder for her fusion spell. But how this works is that it can't be special summon. It has to be tribute summoned by tributing 3 monsters and also banishing all the cards in your graveyard. It can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. If it attacks a defense position monster, your opponent takes 1,000 damage. And then this also has a quick effect. Because it's such a brick and really only usable with her fusion spell to make a different monster, you can, hard once per turn, just reveal this card in your hand, shuffle it back into deck, and draw. This card is such a brick, we made it a way to unbrick itself out of your hand. It was that dumb. So, the seals are bosses. Saber Altar is kind of a boss, but it's more of a fusion, that is. Okay, now we've got my favorite card in this deck. I'm a big Power Ranger guy. So this is kind of my stand-in for Emkul Skaith, because I just wanted that to kind of be his own thing. He even kind of talked about that with me. I was like, I'd rather have just Skaith be my own thing. So if you don't remember Skaith, the Terror of Death from earlier decks and Emkul's decks, this is kind of my stand-in for that. So Lord Drakon is my favorite. You know, Tommy's my favorite Power Ranger. I don't know whose favorite Power Ranger isn't Tommy. So this is kind of my stand-in for the old Skaith monster. So he can't be normal summon or set. He has to first be special summoned from the hand by banishing a light monster, a dark monster, and 1 spell from the graveyard. So he's he's just a big BLS, basically. At the start of each battle phase, I can destroy 1 monster my opponent controls, and that includes my opponent's battle phase too, and then it gains 500 attack. But if it was a warrior monster, it gains 1,000 attack instead, because he steals power from warriors, like the Rangers. And then if he leaves the field, I can draw until I have exactly 2 cards in my hand. And then Lord Drakon can only be summoned by anybody once per duel. Okay, we're almost done with the monsters here. We got 2 more to go. So, this next monster is very special. I'm actually going to do a video on this at another time. But we're actually running the Winged Dragon of Ra. Now, there's something special about this particular version of Ra, is that based on word of mouth and eyewitness accounts, the Seal of Orichalcos was not the only exclusive Upper Deck card. I'm actually going to make a video on all the exclusive Upper Deck cards we have seen or have heard about. There's like Seal of Orichalcos, Winged Dragon of Ra, Millennium, Thousand Eyes Virus are like the most known ones. But this is the Winged Dragon of Ra. They actually had this in their Orichalcos decks at one point. And it's just a very cool looking card. This is, we don't know what exactly it looks like, but this is a close recreation I can get from word of mouth. It actually had the ancient text in its effect text box with the manga artwork. So yeah, our Winged Dragon of Ra here is just all the effects from the show, even down to having to recite the activation code, because, you know, it's got the sacred words written right on it. So it's just another big boss, just kind of my trump card alongside Lord Drakon. Just, you've seen this, what this thing can do in the show. Like, this basically, well, it may as well just translate to just do whatever, lol. But I really wanted to include, like, more of the Upper Deck exclusive cards in this deck. So we have our Winged Dragon, our Upper Deck version of Winged Dragon of Ra here. And if you do try to reborn it from my graveyard, I am going to hold it up. I am going to hold it to you to say that activation code. You better believe it. If you mess it up and then I'll say it, I get raw back. So just bear that in mind if you see that guy lingering in the graveyard. Alright, last monster. This is a very unusual card. It's kind of got an inside joke to it, but I may as well explain it now that I'm showing you the card. So we have Najib gains Hannah. So the story behind this card is this guy pictured on the card here, Najib gains Hannah. He's actually a very good friend of mine. I still do business and play cards with him to this day. And so how this came into existence is he used to judge my Yu-Gi-Oh local at my LGS, like all the way from as long as I started playing there, back in like 2011 to the early Pendulum era, I think, is when he stopped judging, and moved on to other things. But while he was judging this, the guys who actually who owned that LGS, made this card and put it on Facebook, and they're like, "Would you run this card in your deck?" Yeah, because he's actually Najib here is actually pretty broken. So I got it made into a big shiny Orica, and and I want to thank Najib also, because I actually asked him if I could use this in my deck, and I do have his blessing to reawaken the legacy, because this card was actually made back in 2013 by the guys who actually owned that LGS. So he's a Divine Judge type. He has 2,000 attack, 500 defense. He can't be special summoned from the deck. And I can banish this face-up card as cost to discard my hand and then draw 5. That is insane. But it's kind of also my stand-in for like the M. Cole 40 card in his deck, where he just summons it and adds all 3 seals. So that's kind of what I'm going on with this, is that it's just a really busted... It's just my version of a really busted normal summon. Thanks, Najib. Alright, that was every main deck monster. Now we're going to be running into our upper deck Seal of Orichalcos. No, I'm joking. They're proxies. Don't get too freaked out. Yeah, what can I say about this card that hasn't already been said? It's just really strong. It has all the effects from the show. Can't be negated, destroyed, or removed from the field. Spell speed 4 in all instances of its effects, including that you can, if this card's in your hand, you can send it from your hand to the graveyard in order to negate and destroy any card in the game at basically better super poly speed, because this thing can hit counter traps, because Upper Deck actually ruled this as like an actual spell speed 4 card that you just can't do anything about. So Silvery Calcos is just really good in this deck. It's the whole point of the deck, really. So now we have our Orichalcos Deuteros. The seal does get stronger, believe it or not. So you play this usually with Berserker, but if you're not playing it with Berserker, you're putting it on top of the seal. Absorbs all the effects, and then it has some effects of its own where you gain 500 life points per monster on your field once per turn, and then if your opponent attacks you directly with some type of effect that lets them bypass your monsters, you can tribute a monster to negate the direct attack and destroy the monster. And that's not once per turn, which is pretty crazy. And then we have Orichalcos Stratos, which makes Divine Serpent kind of busted, and all my monsters busted, because you play this over Deuteros. You can only activate 1 seal layer a turn, by the way. So I don't know why everybody's playing like... Some people are playing up to like 7 and 8 layers of the seal. We're not about that life. Some people have gotten crazy in the fandom, and they don't realize that you can only activate 1 seal layer on the field a turn. So that's just so many dead cards in your deck most of the time. But Tritos adds the immunity to spells and traps to my monsters from my opponent's cards. If my opponent activates a spell or trap that would affect any of my monsters on my board, I can just choose to negate and destroy it. Funny enough, this itself is not... this itself can't stop counter traps because it's like a stagnant spell speed 2 effect. And then all of these are impervious to negation, destruction, chaining, and chaining to their activation and removal from the field. Next on the spells, 1 land for men. Love the name. Double Chosen Destiny. So, a normal spell that allows me to pay 1,000 points to either add any Orichalcos named card from my deck to my hand, or destroy any Orichalcos card on the field. So, hey, it works in the mirror match. It ignores any effects that would prevent it from being destroyed. So you can blow up your own seal. Never comes up, but we can if we need to. It's also great in the mirror match, just blowing up their seal. You know. Orichalcos Eye. I put this version of the card in last minute, but I'm debating going back to the very first version. Orichalcos Eye is a continuous spell card that says pay 1,000 life points to add an Orichalcos card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. We're never running more than one of this, and I'm thinking of as soon as this video is over, I'm thinking of immediately going back to the version that only just adds from your deck, because I've already kind of increased this was like a last minute thing to try to like bump up the power ceiling, but I think I've already done so much, like as much as I can do to make it like comfortable in like actual TCG land. Recovering the Orichalcos seals and the seal monsters from the graveyard, I think is a bit too good now, the way I made them. So this, I think, is going to go back to the version where it can only grab from deck for future reference. Then we have Synthesis 30, Alice's Sword. This card can actually be discarded to search the monster that it equips to from the deck, or you can special summon, or if it's in your hand, you can discard it to special summoner from your hand. This can only be equipped to a warrior monster, gains 500 attack. If the equipped monster battles a warrior monster, you can pay 1,000 life points to destroy that monster before damage. And then once returned, if the equipped monster will be destroyed, you can send this card from the field to the graveyard instead. Pretty cool equip. War of the Beast, Skull Reaper, Advent of the Warhammer. These are the seal spells. You can only activate one of these a turn, and they can only be activated when the Seal of Orichalcos is on the field. So, that's it. Just literally spell forms of the green monsters you saw before. Summons Gleam Eyes, summons Skull Reaper, summons Warhammer Titan. There are other seal spells I've been working with, but these 3 are kind of the best ones that were ever made, so we just stick with that. Orichalcos Command Fusion. So, how this works is it's a Shaddoll Fusion. So if your opponent controls extra deck monsters, you can send from your deck to the graveyard, and your hand, and your side of the field, to summon a Orichalcos Fusion monster from your extra deck. And the stipulations of this card, because it's such a good fusion spell, is that you can't summon other monsters from the extra deck this turn after you use this, and then the monster summoned by the effect of this card is the only monster that can attack that turn. Because this can actually go into a doozy of a monster. I found a place for my Lost Art Monster Reborn. I think I'm actually going to... This is one of the first Lost Arts I ever got. I think I'm actually going to put this back in my collection binder. That's another video for another day. And just put like a regular one in here. Because I have like the Secret Rare tin one I could put in here instead. I kind of want this back in my collection binder. But one Monster Reborn. And then we have our really big power spells from the anime. We have Illusion Gate. Regeki and Monster Reborn in one card is pretty good. Card of Demise. So the deck is currently at 41 cards. If I feel this is too insane, we're just throwing it out of the deck. Because we already have Najib, we already have a bunch of search. This is kind of just because there's so many hands I can have where it just clumps up in bricks like crazy. But at the same time, this card is also incredibly just powerful in general. It's Animate Card of Demise, where you activate this, draw until you have 5 in hand, and then in 5 turns, you have to send your entire hand to the graveyard. Let me tell you, those 5 turns never happen in most cases. Just because, you know, drawing until you have 5 in hand is just insanely busted. So, I'm kind of on the fence about this. In one hand, it helps the bad hands. On the other, it's just a dangerously good win even harder card. Because you just drown your opponent in so much advantage with this. So, I'm monitoring this. And then we have our old Mischief of the Time Goddess. You know, the anime one that's not just for Valkyries. Skip directly to the battle phase of your next turn. You get 2 main phase 2s. You can use once per turn effects twice. It's just really good. It's a good game ender because you get 2 battle phases. Yeah. Trap cards. We only have 3 trap cards, and this is the only real trap card in the deck. Yes, this card has been the debate of a lot of discussion, the topic of a lot of discussions lately. I do have a lot of big dark monsters. I feel like this is with I feel like if I run this, Demise might be too much now. But we only run 1 Erad. You know, the whole deck is dark with Orichalcos on board. And this card's just kind of dumb in certain situations. Briar Transplant, a very powerful removal trap from the manga. It's just a non-target banish 1 card on the field. Then we have our Valkyrie Strike, more removal. It's a Icarus attack that sends by tributing an Orichalcos monster. So there's that. Now, I thank you all if you made it this far. But we now have the extra deck. Orichalcos Berserker, signed by Uncle40. So it's 1 monster to make. You can tribute this card, summon 1 of your gadgets from your deck. So you usually go... So this is kind of the combo starter right here. Its other effect is that you can banish it from your graveyard as a quick effect. So if you use the first effect and they call by, you can actually dodge the called by using the second effect. Kind of cute how we made it that way. So this is how... I kind of errated this to be a little different than what it used to be. So, with the second effect. So you banish it from the grave to activate Deuteros from the deck. But then everybody is like, what the heck does Deuteros do? Because Deuteros inherently absorbs all the effects of the first seal. It just says that on the card. But like if you don't have the first seal out, what does Deuteros do? So I kind of tweaked it a little bit. Orichalcos Berserker now banishes itself to reveal 1 of these from anywhere in your possession. To then have it absorb its effect, just so your opponent knows what this does, to have it absorb its effects and activate Deuteros. Kind of trying to save my negates with all 3 seals that way, because Yu-Gi-Oh's just gotten so fast and furious that it's like, you need the power. So yeah, Berserker. Card Captor. We can combo off without having a normal summon. So this is 1 monster to make. I can actually make this by sending a monster from my hand to the graveyard. But then when it's Link Summon, I can discard 1 to add the Command Fusion from my deck to my hand. Which is pretty good. And then we have Orichalcos Ace Kagatea. It's a Link 2 that requires at least an Orichalcos or a Dark monster. And when it's Link Summon, you can banish 1 of the monsters used to Link Summon it and set any normal trap from your deck. So we got these to pick from, essentially. So yeah, we can search Eradicator with it. Kinda thinking that's a bad idea now. But we're just gonna kind of roll with this and see what happens. And then also at the end of the turn, you use her effect. You get to add the monster that you banish with it to search the trap back to your hand. She also gets 100 attack for every spell in your graveyard. Very interesting. Utopia and Sealed Utopia. Nothing's really changed with this. This is the old version of Sealed Utopia. You should kind of know what these do. They've been used so often in this challenge. What we have come to call Crappy Angsty 2012 Anime Mistake card. Kirito. You have to... this you probably already know what it does just from how often it's been used and seen. Double Dark Gear Giga X. You overlay 2 level 4s, make this, detach, search Orichalcos cards, floats into a gadget in the grave when it dies. Some real stuff here, because we have a lot of level 4 support. We have Degusto Emerald and Baguska. Other real Link cards. IP to go into Phoenix and Unicorn. Alright, so this is where the Command Fusion comes in. This is Divine Serpent Saber Altar. It's Saber Altar plus Divine Serpent Ge. It's always treated as an Orichalcos card, and it can only be fusion summoned by those 2 monsters. So you have to send them off with the Command Fusion. It can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. It's unaffected by other card effects. But remember, with Command Fusion, this is the only monster that can attack that turn. During the end phase, this card gets returned to the extra deck, and you have to special summon the Saber Altar you used for this card's summon. Ignoring its conditions, but its effects are negated. And if you do, you have to skip your next turn's battle phase. So this is like just a big board-clearing haymaker. Gets you a body on board to protect yourself after it goes away. But you also can't... But you're also unable to do battle that turn. So this is just another big boss from the extra deck. That's like my only big boss extra deck. Last extra deck monster is Chi Face. Now, Chi Face is the stand-in for the old chicken card. I pulled his stats right out of Magic the Gathering. He has an attack and defense of 2. He's a 2/2 chump blocker. So the whole idea of Chi Face, he's my favorite Magic the Gathering card. And it's just, if your opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you can special summon this card from your extra deck in defense position. Neither player takes any battle damage from battles involving this card. So they are about to game end you. Summon this in defense, they redeclare attack, kill this instead. That's all it's there for. And we're not running more than one of that. Alright, it's finally time for the side deck. So for some real stuff I just couldn't fit in, we have Feather Duster and Called By. Just kind of limited 1 staple cards. Triple Dark Ruler No More for those big board blowout decks. Mirror Knights. Mirror Knights. I bet you were wondering when you would find these guys. Yeah, I just can't find the room or the capacity to want to put these guys in the main deck. Only because I already plug so many monsters on the field, and this just kind of makes things even nuttier. So you kind of, this was actually in the show. I probably don't have to explain what it does. The ritual spell actually summons this guy from the deck, which is kind of which is okay. Hee hee ha ha. The other problem with this is he's a brick anywhere else, like everything else in the deck. But this is the life I have chosen to live. This guy is probably going to stay starting in the sideboard for many years to come. And there be souls under these tokens. Just so you know. Alright. The 4th Sigilif and his spell card. I'm going to leave this one a secret. This is kind of a secret seal spell combo that can come in. He's pretty good. But he is the 4th seal I run. The Big Black Hole. Just, you know, the Light and Dark Hate card. It's a hand trap that basically blows out a light or a dark or both type of deck. So yeah, that's what that's in there for. Triple King's Mark. This is the broke package, as I call it. Triple King's Mark in anime, old Nibelung's Treasure. So how this works is that we are these only come in like either game 3, or if we're just in a duel or in a match where it is just so annoying and so broken, and we're trying to, and it's a soul we really want to catch. Because King's Mark is a normal spell card that says add 1 card from your deck or your opponent's deck to your hand. And you guys thought Anime Philosopher's Stone was crazy in the Hero Challenge. Whoo boy. This almost never comes in, I find. Unless we're in like a tier 0 format. And it lets you search this. We only run 1 now in the sideboard. Nibelung's Treasure, aka Win the Game, as I said. Select 1 spell card from your deck, ignore it, activate it on your opponent's side of the field. After that spell resolves, draw 5 cards. So I can give them a card that hurts them, and I just drown them in card advantage on top of it. Oh boy. Yeah. So that's a thing. Anyway, if you made it this far, you've been here a long time. I just want to say thanks again for sticking it out with me. I know the Orichalcos deck profiles are always so long. There's always so much to go through. So, like I said, thanks again for watching. You've been here a long time. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. And if you want to take the Orichalcos challenge, I actually have this deck built as is on Dueling Book. I can also remote webcam duel with it if you would like. So just kind of hit me up on Discord. If you just ask me in the comments if you want to duel this, and I'll give you my Discord and we can talk about it and get our duel on. Just bring whatever deck, I guess. Like, I'm really not... This deck's really strong, so I'm kind of just not... I'm not that fussed about what kind of decks you bring to the table. Unless it's like, banish this card from your extra deck. Remove all Orichalcos cards from your opponent's deck. Some of the piece crap I've seen on Dueling Book is just... we all got to be careful with our card design. Like, I'm guilty of such things as well. You know, thumbing Chuck Norris from the deck at the beginning of the duel. He can't die. I'm so smart. Yeah. So, other than things like that, I think we'll be good to go. Florentine Yu-Gi-Oh! Out. Have yourselves a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night.